tourism's vital.
Gold Coast is leading the way when it comes to tourism in Queensland.
Competing heavily with international destinations, cost of living.
Gold Coast literally has it all.
We saw through COVID when travel completely stopped, the whole community was impacted.
Right, buying Gold Coast in today's episode. This one's going to be an absolute ripper. I'm really excited around this space. It's kind of in that holiday letting space, predominantly Gold Coast, but we'll also talk on some global and national factors too. And I've got an absolute expert in the building who I'll reveal in a second. But firstly, appreciate all the love, support with the show. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the show, leave a review. It enables us, I guess, to get better and bigger guests to pump the value back to you. Just like today, we've caught a big one in today because I'm really excited about this. We've got Cam Arnold in, who's the GM for commercial operations at Elogio. And if anyone doesn't know, they're one of Australia's largest players in the holiday letting space. Not only that, we're going to, I guess, touch on, they're doing some big acquisitions on the Gold Coast literally as we speak. And I'm really curious to hear from the GM in the commercial ops, like what that is. And just again, he doesn't like wrapping himself up, Cam, but he's just been, he actually won the Order of Australia medal for services to tourism and conservation, which was announced at the King's birthday, wasn't it, this year? So, mate, huge rapping, and mate, so grateful someone of your caliber come on the podcast, mate, buying Gold Coast. Welcome, Cam.
Thanks, Matt. I'm extremely humbled by that overzealous introduction, but thank you. Yeah.
Nah, I was going to ask, so I've always looked up to those OAM medals and things like that. Like, how does, just firstly on that, like for yourself, how does that come about?
Yeah, it actually came out of left field for me. You don't know that it's actually.
So you don't know do you know you're nominated or
someone
something?
Nominates you.
Yeah, gotcha.
You don't know who it is.
Gotcha.
And then I literally got an email from the Office of the Governor General.
Wow.
And I thought it was might have been a prank at the time. But they ask you now if you're going to accept it because there's a bit of controversy around the awards and obviously, I was pretty humbled and pretty taken aback. So accepted it with great pride. So it's pretty special.
Yeah, mate, that's huge. That's like one of the biggest things in Australia. So just to give context on, mate, when Cam talks, he knows what he's talking about. So,
Thanks,
mate, Elogio quickly, obviously, mate, huge players in the holiday letting space. Mate, when did you get into the Elogio world, and how'd you get into, I guess, this holiday letting space, which we'll dive deeper in a second?
Yeah, Matt, I've pretty much done every part of accommodation in the tourism sector.
Yeah.
From running resorts and hotels and from corporate to leisure to having my own leasehold on a apartment complex in the middle of Byron Bay. And I actually set up Australia's first glamping business as well. So we did and all the major festivals. So
gotcha.
Blues Fest and Splendor, and we're doing these pop-up hotels in Bathurst, and pretty crazy. So the short-term holiday management side of things, I've been in for just over a year with Elogio.
Yeah.
I've known the CEO for about 11 years, Will Creedon. So he's pretty well known in the industry, and he's on a bit of a mission to become the biggest operator of short-term holiday rental in Australasia.
Yeah.
So and it's really exciting because we're scaling at a rate of knots, at a really rapid rate. And it's probably the part of the industry, accommodation industry, that hasn't been not corporatized, but more structured in a I guess a more streamlined perspective. So, that's exactly what Elogio is doing.
I love it. And obviously Elogio does some global acquisitions too. Like I remember chatting off it. You do a bit in even Queenstown, and so some big holiday destinations. Is that right?
Exactly right. And we're doing all regional. So we don't touch metro at the moment. There's a lot of issues around legislation for short-term holiday rental.
Gotcha.
Which I'm sure some of your followers would know about. It's one of those in a housing crisis. It's been tarnished with, a few issues around tying up stock. When it doesn't at all, like it's part of the visitation product. So, but unfortunately, we're battling that across multiple avenues. Victoria just put in new legislation.
I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah. Gold Coast are doing their piece as well. I've been on the forefront of the battleground in Byron. So Byron's been, they've introduced 60-day caps on outside of a certain precinct, and we've lobbied pretty hard to fight against that. But yeah, it's having a major impact on that as a destination. So yeah, it's been quite an interesting space,
isn't it? I think about that, right? Like I know when I was in I went to Queenstown this year, one of my favorite destinations, and I was actually just chatting to some of the agents over there, just curious. Mate, my dreams, I'll get a nice little thing over there, then holiday led, and then I'll come and use it. But she actually gave me some really good insight on their rules over there and how it's changed and impacted. And then, parts on Jack's Point, they don't do them at all anymore. And it's just like so many legislation changes so much. But I'm curious because we'll dive in on the Gold Coast. We'll go macro on that to provide value because a lot of our listeners are really centered around Gold Coast. But I agree with you. Like it's two front, right? Like people, you take away the ability to have tourism and visitors here, and then people complaining like the prices are going down, or there's, the cafe owners are dying off, right? But then on the other front, everyone, so it's like, what's the trade-off for it? So I'm really curious, what have you noticed like with the Gold Coast, trends or changes from maybe holiday letting when you first started to now on the Gold Coast?
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about Queenstown, and just share some examples. So a couple of years ago, Queenstown introduced some caps or some tighter legislation around it, and it got impacted straight away as a destination. So they reversed a lot of that.
Gotcha.
They've got some good, more practical legislation in place where you actually have to apply for a license.
A license, that's it. Yeah.
Which is great, So, and they're booming. It's probably we took over that business in August. I've been over there 3 times this year.
How good is it?
It's awesome. Yeah, it's really cool. So, really good business. In Byron, we're just noticing the impacts of the caps being, and they haven't actually been introduced as such. The legislation kicked off in September, but it's when the renewal of your license comes in that your 60 days starts. So, but we're already seeing visitation sliding, and the knock-on effect from that is, like you said, restaurants, cafes.
Yes.
There's also the capacity for the airlines. So
True.
for your local residents, if you don't have visitors coming and going, you can't have the regularity of flights. So that's a major knock-on effect for your local residents. All these unintended consequences. And then the Gold Coast, there's some great new hotels that have been built here, but a lot of those hotels will be a mixed development. So you've got your hotel component and then you've got your residences.
The owner-ocs, yeah.
Yeah, so with the short-term holiday management, it's in those residences that we focus, and that's where the opportunities lie, So, and it's a different experience to a hotel. It's more flexible for a family or a group of individuals So I think there's huge potential on the Gold Coast to grow that market, but Gold Coast is struggling. The numbers are pretty scary, like the visitation numbers.
In terms of people visiting for on a tourism sense, is it?
Yeah. Like I've heard from Booking.com, who's one of the major global players. The numbers coming to the Gold Coast are down, nearly 1 million visitors from same time last year.
Interesting. And what do you think the key to is that? Would that play a big part? These rules they're putting on the short term?
No, this is more about demand. So people coming in. Like there's demand and supply, basic economics. So, we're in the supply side of things, supplying the product. The demand is actually bringing the visitors in. So it's more in demand. So we're competing heavily with international destinations, domestically, cost of living, all that plays a part in bringing people into these destinations for holidays.
Interesting. And then for, I guess, Elogio and your role there, and like, you're obviously going at a rate of knots at acquisitions and things like that. I know you guys have kind of got your microscope on the Gold, like you're actually acquiring on the Gold Coast too. Is this, again, I'm no expert in the letting space, but in the residential space, obviously I like to buy assets when it is a bit lower and that's when I pound. And then is that kind of the same you're looking at the Gold Coast? Because we're just saying like numbers are kind of down a bit, but you guys are acquiring things. Is that kind of the mentality? And you're hoping it picks back up?
It probably wasn't the strategy, but it's just happened that way.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So there, I guess, when the numbers are down, people will look to get out. So as we're looking to ramp up, the opportunities are coming up, and
they'd be cheaper, I'm assuming too, wouldn't they? Like in terms of
possibly
acquisition.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. But we just bought about 3 months ago Gold Coast Holiday Stays.
Yeah.
Based in Surface, and then we've just actually settled on the Gold Coast Luxury Resorts products.
Wow,
it's about 130
It's a big one.
properties. Yeah, really good business.
Yeah.
Chris Murphy's was the owner of that business and created a great business. So we'll take that on, and our idea is basically to grow that portfolio. So having a base business and then tucking more listings into that portfolio. And there's a lot, on our radar.
And to acquire some of those, will you do much advertising to the everyday Gold Coaster on like the benefits of letting your place out, or is it more you're looking at it from maybe the on-site managers and
more the developers?
The developers.
We want to talk to developers, first and foremost, on what they're doing.
So projects that aren't out of the ground yet, kind of thing. Gotcha.
Yep. And then looking at investors that have bought units in those buildings is probably the secondary side of the business. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you're kind of getting in early.
Yep.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then really, I guess, showcasing the benefits of, hey, have you considered doing it as a holiday let?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And the benefit that we bring, I guess, is around distribution. So, as a larger organization, we have a really strong, what we call channel to market. So a channel would be booking.com,
Yes.
Airbnb, Vrbo, but we're building our own really strong channel to market as well. Looking at the different targets as well, corporates, event-based visitation. So, we've got a much more aggressive marketing team and ability to get to those different target markets.
It's exciting.
Yeah, it's good.
Really exciting. And then I guess for the Gold Coast as a sense, what are you, tourism-wise, like what are you seeing because you wouldn't be acquiring on the coast if you didn't see like future potential, right? Like what do you think is going to make the Gold Coast from where we are today to where I guess we could be? Like what do you think? Is there any factors economically or just as a society that you think Gold Coast could get from A to B?
I really like what Gold Coast Council are doing right now. And I've shared this with, I had lunch with the mayor of Coffs Harbour last week, and shared with her what's happening on the Gold Coast. So the fact you've got Invest Gold Coast as an entity of council, you've got Experience Gold Coast as well, and they're full of really quality, experienced people on those boards. You got Katie Page, you've got the ex-premier of Tasmania sitting on those boards, one of the founders of Culture King. So these are really quality business people that they've pulled in to advise council on how to drive the economy and
on the Gold Coast.
On the Gold Coast,
Interesting.
So that to me is a phenomenal model for other councils to think about, because people that work in councils, and with full respect, they don't have that business knowledge. They haven't actually done it themselves, potentially. So to bring in the experience and knowledge of these guys that have been there, done it, and been successful is gold. John Warren, who's the head of Experience Gold Coast, I worked with John at Destination New South Wales. He's a quality guy, really very highly experienced and knowledgeable. So having those people in place in the Gold Coast stands it in really good stead.
Interesting. So what I'm hearing there is the council is investing into kind of, let's take this city and let's drive it.
Yeah.
Let's actually, so it sounds like they're actually putting funds and resources and quality talent to take the bus on the journey.
And they're also, like I know that with the change of state government, there's a real focus on the product development on the Gold Coast. So the Premier obviously is a local member, you know, so he's really keen to see how they can grow tourism, you know, as a economic driver for the destination, which it's always been, but they've been able to create diversity as well. Like education's a really, really great driver. Health has been really good on the Gold Coast and you know, the obviously films. But with tourism, the product they're talking about now is looking at nature-based experiences. So the talk of the gondola from Mount Tambourine to Burleigh, I think is
Oh, geez, that'd be unreal.
It'd be phenomenal because you see it like I've been
like up in Cairns.
Yeah, like Cairns. Yeah. But I went to Canada recently. I've got a daughter over in Canada, and we went to Whistler. And outside of season, they're doing, you know, mountain biking up in the mountains with the gondolas. So
phenomenal.
And Queenstown's the same. You know, you've got that experience going up the mountain. So that type of thing, as long as it's done with the environmental sustainability in mind, which I believe is definitely the focus. That's diversifying the product in the Gold Coast, which is really cool.
Yeah. That's unreal. See, then that's why I wanted you on. It's just giving a different perspective on tourism and drivers. Like that really excites me because I love business, and it's just like a business, right? At the end of the day, you get the right people in the right seats, things happen. And what you're telling me there, which I had no idea around, is the Gold Coast have got some A players sitting in the seats who are going to help the council drive this forward.
Yeah, and I just wish, like, you know, the other key destinations like Byron, you know, everyone knows how awesome Byron is, but it doesn't get the strategy right. You know, they don't manage tourism as such. And that's when it can go astray. Really great council in Coffs Harbour. They've got a bypass going through. I sit on the board of Big Banana down there, you know.
Iconic. In Coffs,
Yeah, and that business is going from strength to strength, you know, in what we're investing in that. But the mayor is really pro-business and pro how they can actually build, you know, the city for the benefit of the residents. Because the average price to fly out of Coffs Harbour, I know I'm off track from the Gold Coast, but this is an example of what happens. The average price to fly out of Coffs is $500.
Yeah.
You know, so residents have to drive, you know. So the benefit you get from the visitor economy and that being really strong is low cost fares, more frequency of flights, better restaurants.
True. Because the more people that come into the town, obviously because there's volume, the airline companies lower the... Is that right? Is that kind of... Yeah.
Absolutely.
There you go.
They know they can do more frequency, more bumps in seats, to and fro, larger aircraft, which is more economical, all that sort of stuff.
Wow. I've just had a helicopter vision. That's unreal. Yeah, it makes complete sense, hey? Yeah. The more people you have coming to a city, you're going to need to fly them in, and which, again, the more volume there, you can lower it, so making it easier to get in there, which is only boosting all the cafe owners, which is boosting all the people in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've got a great airport, the Gold Coast Airport.
Oh, it's phenomenal.
Like, it's really close to our border on the North Coast, which is great. But the guys that operate there, like, I've dealt with them for a number of years, they're quality operators. So, you know, they're out there trying to bring in more destinations and more opportunities to drive tourism into the place.
Love it. Here's one for you. I'm just thinking now, like, I've been in a suburb called Palm Beach from like a long time now, like over 10 years. And I've just lived in I'm from Brisbane originally, and then came down to the Gold Coast and just fell in love. And I'm similar. Like, I put the hat on as like, man, I've loved seeing my own assets go up because of the growth, but I love seeing the city diverse. You know, I am a bit younger, so I love it. But since I've been in Palm Beach, Burleigh, all these areas from a long time ago, a lot of people also on the other front, they're complaining that it's sort of nearly too commercial and things like that. So what's your opinion on that? Like, you got two sides, right? Your city's pumping and boosting, but then you got also, do you lose the, I don't know, you know, what it was at its heart.
The culture?
Culture, I guess. Like, is there any thoughts from, I'm just curious on perspective with from your angle.
Yeah, it's a really good question because culture is so important to your destination and what you're looking for to live in. My wife and I just bought a place in Currumbin, actually. And we've been in New South Wales for quite some time, so moving back across the border, even though I'm a Blues supporter, it's going to be challenging. But yeah, like we've chosen a lifestyle, in the hinterland, away from the coast.
Beautiful.
So I guess, there's a culture that you want to sustain in some way, but things change. Things grow, and with that comes more cafes or better food, better experiences, or
that's true.
Yeah, and it's looking for what's going to suit you as an individual.
That's true. Yeah, I always think that too. The people who complain a lot, they're also not complaining that their house value's gone up $2 million. So
no, it's fun. And again, just back to Byron, I met with a guy who owns a property down there. He lives in Brisbane, and they thought they were going to buy this great property in Byron and spend more time down there. And it hasn't worked out that way at all, because they're just too busy, and the holiday rental side of things has been working a treat for them. So the return on investment for them has been great. So that's, I think the culture on where you invest, think about what you want to do with that investment.
Gotcha.
Is it to make sure it's there for your own use, or whether it's purely investment for return?
It's a really good segue into one thing I wanted to discuss with you, Cam, was as a buyer's agent, we specialise just Gold Coast. A brief we get from time and time with our team is the holiday homes, and not just for use, but also as an investment vehicle too. Like some people don't want the long-term 6 to 12 months because they want to kind of fly in, fly out. But then when it's not being used, they want to make some money. What do you think makes a good short-term rental property? Like if I had that hat on as one of these potential buyers looking on the Gold Coast, what would I be looking for, you think, as some key factors if I wanted to have that good cash flow returns as a let?
That's a really, really hard question to answer. I guess the destination itself is Gold Coast, so you're going to have that demand, even though it's soft at the moment. It will pick up again. Accessibility, just making it easy think of it from a guest perspective.
Yes.
When you putting your property up to holiday let, how easy is it to get access to, and what is the fit out inside, making sure that fit out is robust.
Yeah.
Holiday rental is not as harsh as a hotel, because a hotel is, full occupancy the majority of the time. So your occupancy is definitely lower, but you still need to make it easy to clean and robust. So you don't want to fit it out in your high-end luxury items that are going to get beaten up. And Yeah. And then, I guess the destination itself, is it close to restaurants? What other experiences are there for the visitor to have?
Yeah, that's a big one, isn't it? That's a really good point. Two things to take out of that. I think number one is that it is, if you're looking at purely like an investment, and you want to do the holiday let thing, just remember it's going to get foot traffic in there. So you don't go. I even agree with you. I think people would pay more, and I do that because I love short term. I use short terms everywhere I go, everywhere. I never go hotels anymore. I'm always on the short term train. What I look for, I just purely go on that map view. And I'm like, that's where the action is. I'm somewhere in and around there. Or I'm on the beach. It's got to have some sort of view. I actually don't care on the fixtures. I've never looked at the fixtures and fittings, ever.
Yeah.
Because I'm rarely there when I'm on holiday too. I wake up in there and then I go to sleep there. So that's a really good point. Probably don't overcapitalize on the internal renovation. Tidy enough. But if anything, I think if you could pay a little bit more to be maybe with a view, maybe with an aspect, maybe within walking distance rather than driving distance to these cafes, would that be fair to say that's probably a better play?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And everyone, I guess what we've noticed is that the major players in the market, like Booking.com, Airbnb, Vrbo's Expedia, they're really focusing in on the short-term rental market. So Booking.com, who are probably the biggest global player, is focusing in Australia. They've got 5 countries they're focusing on for short-term holiday rental, and Australia is one of them.
Really?
So it just shows the potential for the growth of that
wow.
sector.
Globally,
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you know what the other ones are? Just out of
No,
curiosity.
they wouldn't. They wouldn't share that with us, Matt.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're putting big bucks into it, and Airbnb, you know, they've sort of they're a funny character, you know, like they've just become not just a brand, but they're an industry in themselves. Like you talk about short-term rental, everyone says, "Oh, I'm going to Airbnb my home," and the returns that Airbnb give compared to, you know, through a property manager or through even Booking.com are much, in my opinion, are much less.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's an interesting one, and I really believe that it will continue. Like, yeah, as you said, I'm even noticing the trends. A lot of property managers are now creating verticals within their business for just purely short term when they never were doing it before. So I'm noticing that trend a lot as well.
And it's a really different business. Like it's a really different business to running a real estate agent.
Yes.
You know, running a hotel or a short-term rental sector, because it's all about a tourism spin and a guest experience, which is an agent, real estate agent, great at what they do, but not in that sector.
Yes.
So we want to work with agents, definitely, referral programs, all that sort of stuff, to try to build our listings on the Gold Coast. So yeah, we're really open to working with as many agents as we can in that space.
It's a good point, because it's a different kettle of fish, isn't it?
Totally.
Yeah.
And it's even different to running a hotel. Like it's a different beast. It's really interesting. Yeah.
Who are the types of people that, have you noticed any demographics of certain type of people that own rentals? Like, is there any kind of, they're more commercial minded people? Are they more mums and dads, or just?
Yeah, they're probably more mums and dads that actually do want to use their property themselves.
So they kind of use it a bit, but also they've got an owner ox in a capital city or something, maybe.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's not all about the return. It's about
the lifestyle.
We want to use it. You know, and we've got like the best destinations across Australia. So if you buy a home in like the Gold Coast, Hunter Valley, Noosa, you definitely want to go and use it. But when you're not using it, you want to try and get
some return out of it.
Returns for it.
Get some ROI.
Yeah, and that's definitely where we're really strong in.
Interesting. And just curious on, I guess this might add some value to people on the Gold Coast who potentially looking, like one of my friends, she's every year she just goes and stays somewhere else, and she rents out her place in Mermaid.
Yeah, right.
Always over the Chrissy period, because the cash flows are ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like she'll literally move her whole house out for like 6 weeks and then move back in.
Good on her.
So I'm just curious, what times of year, like, do you find the best kind of return? Like booking, vacancy rates are nearly gone. They're all gone. Obviously the Christmas, New Year period, I'd assume, but is there any other kind of times in the year where you notice a little spike?
Yeah, so we're getting back to seasonality. So with COVID, you know, it just went all pear-shaped. So we're actually getting back into what pre-COVID seasonality. So
gotcha.
So winter's definitely soft unless you got a major event going on. And I heard the Gold Coast Marathon, I heard today, is on sale for tickets, and the tickets are flying out the door. So, you know, that's a great time of year. You know, obviously Easter, the Christmas peak period. Yeah, I'd definitely look at event-based stuff.
That's a good one.
Yeah, because you will fill, and you'll fill at a good rate.
So it's nearly I've never thought around that. So it's nearly a case of having a look quickly on the Gold Coast events calendar for the year ahead, potentially, and then kind of just circling some of these bigger sort of events, and then potentially, hey, that's when I'm gonna do the short-term rental for my property.
Definitely, that would be my recommendation.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I didn't think everyone's on the running train, like the Gold Coast. Every single year, it seems like my feed gets more and more with the Gold Coast Marathon. It's a big event now, eh?
They were saying this morning it's the second biggest participation marathon in the world.
Is it really?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, they're even talking about going to ballots. So if they get to that point where they're just selling out so quickly, they'll have to go to ballots, which is, you know, amazing.
Yeah. There you go. Wow. And mate, as we wrap up, this has been unreal. What do you think, I guess, trends, opportunities, like, is there anything just in tourism in general, like, that's your obviously expertise, that whole tourism space, like from someone with so much experience in there, like what just on a global sense, like what is there trends, opportunities you kind of look at and you're like, oh wow, that's really interesting in the tourism space for that part of the world? Or I'm just curious on how your mind might think around tourism.
I'm really big on product development.
Product development.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I was heavily involved in the rail trail down in the North Coast, so Northern Rivers Rail Trail.
Yep.
So we've been working on that project for 12 years because we knew we needed a different attraction, and a nature-based attraction down on the North Coast, because you got beautiful beaches and everyone comes for the beaches, but they don't necessarily if it's raining or if it's cloudy or
Gotcha.
or they don't swim in a beach. What else do they do? And we had Mount Warning was a massive attraction too. People going down the North Coast to climb. So we pushed for this rail trail and it's gone nuts. It's been an incredible success. So to me, it's all about product development and looking at what's the next thing you can build to attract a new type of client, so a new type of visitor. So, that's when I think about the gondola, and also I noticed out towards Currumbin, they're building a nature-based trails setup, which looks cool. Amazing.
Really?
Really amazing.
As in like walking tracks or something?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they're the sort of things that I would be looking at building upon from a destination perspective.
Love it. And can the everyday Joe have a look at what's coming? Or is it more like knowledge behind the scenes with councils and stuff?
Oh, no, I think they can. I think, most destinations or councils or tourism organisations will have a strategy.
Yeah.
And they're all publicly listed.
Yep.
So on websites, so Tourism Queensland would have, their strategies. Experience Gold Coast definitely have their strategy in place. So they're pretty accessible to know what's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess one of the things too I recommend is knowing what your strengths are and building on that strength. So there's no use the Gold Coast moving away from being in the glitter strip, but you're adding additional things to broaden your market.
To broaden the market.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a bit of fire there. Yeah. I'm just thinking now, like the Gold Coast literally has it all. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm just thinking from a tourism perspective, like, as you said, that excites me. That's my biggest thing is like, it sounds like there's some good people driving, because from a business and commercial sense to really put this place globally on the map, I just think you've kind of got the ocean, but then you've kind of got the greenery.
Yeah.
You got all that too. So, man, there's best of both worlds nearly. So it's around, as you said, if we can put the right projects in the right places, it's just going to help this city really, like, from a value sense, from a tourism sense, it's just going to put it really on the map.
And you've got, this massive goal in 2032 of the Olympics that, you're working towards, and the Gold Coast will get, incredible spin-off.
A lot of exposure,
100%. Yeah. Like we know what it did for Sydney, and if well, it sounds like, there's some good leadership in that Olympic Games committee too. They're talking about actually putting a new stadium in place, which is desperately needed in Brisbane. So, but what the Gold Coast can pick up out of that, in the build up to it, with teams coming in training, the facilities that'll be built here, and that legacy, as long as it's done with that legacy piece in mind, it'd be awesome. The Commonwealth Games, I remember going to the Strand Hotel for a corporate event, watching the beach volleyball, and then wondering, that was awesome,
phenomenal. Yeah.
So
that was
cool.
such a buzz in the city, and that was the Com Game, like nowhere near as big as the Olympics. So.
Totally, yeah. So they're the sort of things that I think, really positive stuff for the Gold Coast.
And even, I know it's just a small one, but so many people. I've never actually spent the Christmas holidays on the Gold Coast, which I'm doing this year, because I was like, man, everything I enjoy is actually here. Like, it's like, why am I going in? And mate, there's so much golf on the Gold Coast too. It's phenomenal.
Yes, yeah.
Now that I've looked around the world a little, it's like, man, the Gold Coast has got so many good golf courses.
It has, absolutely, yeah.
Phenomenal,
it's so accessible.
Yeah. As we finish, I just got one question that came to me. I'm just curious. Imagine you were one of these big players on the board of the council, right? And they said, Cam, you're driving the strategy over the next decade or whatever, leading to what would you, project-wise or strategy-wise, what would you do with the Gold Coast if you had your hands on it?
Yeah, wow. I definitely build on its strengths, like that the surf culture. Definitely, do more around that space, and the nature based stuff. How do you build on that even more than what they're considering? I'd probably look at the more events.
Yeah.
So they've got some great events, but how do you increase that? We don't do a lot of concert type events here. Like Hot is really good, and arts and culture, but there's probably opportunities to do more stadium sized concerts and things, which I don't think are really been.
Yeah, there hasn't it. Yeah.
No. Like there's.
I know Fisher did one on Cooley Beach.
Yeah, right.
Sold out in like 48 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the biggest like beach festival, I think ever. It was
right.
massive.
Yeah. Well, River Stage up in Brizzy has some.
That's right.
Really good.
That always drives a lot of people away.
I know we're going to see. I heard New Order, which is showing my age
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
but New Order are playing up there in March. But the Gold Coast should be capitalising on that.
Just having
sort of stuff.
some sort of big amphitheatre venue that could really drive.
Yeah, outdoors. We've got the climate, we've got the atmosphere, and that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh, that's I hope this gondola idea goes through.
Well, that's going to open up the hinterland.
Wouldn't it?
Tambourine's great, but it probably, it's just that stretch too far for a lot of visitors. Yeah. So that'll fix a lot of issues for that.
Yeah, unreal. Well, mate, there's been so much insight there. We always finish on the Fast Five, the Gold Coast Fast Five. But mate, I just want to, I guess, firstly acknowledge like your insight, wisdom. I know that's going to add so much value to the listeners. Not just your sort of everyday chat. I think this chat was more, I guess, giving more highlight into what makes cities grow. Even the letting space. Like my biggest takeaway, in all honesty, is how important tourism actually is to a city. Like it shouldn't be the be all end all, but it's a very important part of a city to kind of take serious. I think that's probably my big takeaway. Is like tourism's vital.
Well, we saw through COVID when travel completely stopped, the whole community was impacted.
Yes.
Every business, every individual was impacted. And we beat the drum that tourism impacts everybody. And it does when you see it actually stop. That's when you really notice it.
That's just like a nice little penny drop, isn't it? It's like so true. Think of COVID, no tourism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No movement, no travel.
So many businesses gone.
Absolutely.
Interesting. Yeah. There you have it. Unreal, mate. I'm actually curious for this one. This will be a ripper coming from your side. I'm sure you're well travelled, so I'm looking forward to this. So the Gold Coast Fast Five brought to you by the Temp Therapy Crew. So step up your wellness game, mate. Infrareds, ice baths. I know Elijah's full into them. Mate, I love them too. Get in touch with them at Temp Therapy and mention code word SRAMA for not only 15% off their newest infrared sauna models, but also if you mention my name, they might even do a cheeky install for free too. So
I'm looking for one for our new house. So
yeah.
Oh,
totally. There you go. Temp Therapy. Get in touch. Code word SRAMA, 15% off.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah. So, mate, the Fast Five. Just first thing that comes to your mind. So, favorite Gold Coast or Tweed Coast beach?
Kingslip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it down there. It
Beautiful.
is good.
Yeah.
Great part of the world. What about Gold Coast cafe or restaurant?
Some Barts at Burleigh. Just went there this morning. Yeah.
It's good?
Really, really nice. Nice atmosphere. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereabouts in Burleigh?
It's in Junction Road.
Yes.
In Burleigh. Yeah.
Yeah. In the back there. Yeah. Nice. What Gold Coast suburb are you keeping an eye on to invest? Like, would you? Well, I mean, you've just got in there. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Mate, Currumbin. Isn't Currumbin just? Currumbin is literally one of the best of both. Like, one of my favorite pockets is actually a little street called Woodgie Street and that.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's right on the beach where Pacific Parade is.
Right.
But it's that little hill there.
Yeah. Okay.
So you're in a rainforest,
yeah.
but you're overlooking the beach.
Yeah, nice.
So it's kind of the best of both worlds. I love Currumbin. Favorite holiday home location outside of the Gold Coast?
It'd be either Queenstown, or we went to Canada recently, and we stayed. My daughter's in Canmore near Banff, It was magic.
Is it?
Really magic.
Is it similar similar feeling?
It's probably even more spectacular.
Is it?
Yeah, like Queenstown's great with all the mountains. Banff and Canmore and around Whistler is on steroids.
Is it?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Everyone, I've never heard anyone say a bad word around Canada.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah.
Interesting. And then, mate, lastly, where do you reckon you'd build the dream home?
Dream home. Actually, I really like Pottsville.
Oh, yeah, Pottsville.
Yeah, I really, really do like Pottsville. Either there or, actually just the hinterland around the Goldie. I think, and probably the southern end, be Talabudra.
Yeah.
That sort of strip through there.
Yeah, beautiful, isn't it? Some of the homes out there too, phenomenal.
Yeah.
Really nice. Well, Cam, mate, really appreciate your time, your insights, wisdom, mate. That was unreal, and mate, keep doing what you're doing too. I'm really excited to see your not only professional career grow, but personally too. And mate, you add a lot to the community. So thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Really appreciate it. It's been a good chat.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks, mate.